In the shadowed archives of Natchez, Mississippi, a faded marriage certificate from March 1851 has long confounded historians. The bride, listed as property just 6 months prior, defied the ironclad social laws of the antebellum South. The groom, a plantation owner who held 37 souls in bondage, found his world upended in ways that whispered of calculation and ambition. This is the story of Rose Chaunel and Bell Point Plantation, a tale of survival forged in manipulation, where one woman's sharp mind bent an unyielding system to her will. Bell Point Plantation sprawled across 12,200 acres of fertile Mississippi Delta land, its cotton fields stretching like vast seas under the relentless sun. By 1850, it ranked among the most profitable estates in Adams County, yielding over 400 bales of cotton each year. The main house rose 3 stories high, its grand columns gleaming in the morning light and casting elongated shadows over manicured gardens heavy with the cloying scent of magnolias. Thomas Belmont, a 38-year-old widower, had inherited the property 5 years earlier from his father. He managed it with the precision of a businessman, not the brutality of a tyrant. Detailed ledgers tracked every ounce of cotton, every tool, every expense. His enslaved workforce of 37 endured under a regime of measured discipline, exceed quotas for Sunday privileges, falter and face sale to the deadly sugar fields of Louisiana. Beneath Thomas, a cadre of white men formed the plantation's operational backbone. Hugh Carpenter, the 42-year-old overseer from Georgia, patrolled the fields with sun-weathered skin and vigilant eyes. Samuel Pewitt, 36, oversaw the stables and livestock from his private cottage, his dreams pinned on breeding superior horses. James Farley, 39, managed the cotton gin and press, his hands forever marked by machine oil and dust, while harboring quiet aspirations of land ownership. Clayton Webb, 32, served as bookkeeper and occasional tutor to Thomas's nephew, his anxious nature hidden behind meticulously organized records. Martin Jessup, 35, supervised the house servants and handled dealings with Natchez merchants, his literate and polished demeanor setting him apart. Curiously, none were married, a rarity in a society where men wed young. Hugh mourned a lost wife. Samuel embraced bachelorhood. James pined for a reluctant sweetheart. Clayton deemed himself too scholarly. Martin sought perfection in a partner. Into this rigid hierarchy stepped Rose Chaunel in late 1849, acquired for $800 from a failing plantation near Vicksburg. The bill of sale noted her as healthy, literate, skilled in domestic tasks, and light-complexioned, a detail laden with the era's racial intricacies. Her grandmother, the mixed-race daughter of a Virginia planter, placed her in the liminal category of quadroon, enslaved by law, yet blurring the stark lines of black and white. Standing 5'6", tall for a woman then, Rose possessed a symmetrical face and intense dark eyes that hinted at depths of thought. Secretly taught to read and write by her previous owner's daughter, she had been sold when the lessons were discovered. Thomas assigned her to the main house under Dinah, the 60-year-old head servant who ruled with unyielding authority. Dinah's staff of 6 maintained the facade of genteel Southern life, cooking, cleaning, laundering. "Keep your eyes down and your mouth shut," Dinah warned Rose on her first day, demonstrating silver polishing. "Mr. Thomas runs a respectable house, no reason for talk." Rose nodded, grasping that these rules enforced control more than safety. In her initial months, Rose studied Bell Point like a scholar dissecting a text. She noted Hugh's solitary evening drinks on his porch, Samuel's anguish over a lost mare, James' Sunday readings of agricultural journals, Clayton's anxious hands under criticism, and Martin's meticulous grooming. She observed how each glanced at her when unobserved, hints of desire amid isolation. And she catalogued the plantation's rhythms, the oppressive heat of spring 1850, Thomas's absences in Natchez, the fields baking under unseasonal sun. Rose's first strategic move came during one such absence, as Thomas departed for a 3-day New Orleans trip. Hugh's routine involved a 2-hour evening walk along the property line, flask in hand, easing the day's burdens. On a Thursday in late April, Rose positioned herself near the eastern fence, herbs from the kitchen garden as pretext. Her gray house dress was unremarkable, but she let her hair fall loose, backlit by the setting sun. "Evening, Mr. Carpenter," she said, voice warm yet respectful. Hugh paused, surprised. "Rose?" He moved to pass. "Mighty hot today," she continued, stepping subtly into his path. "Brought some mint tea from the spring house. Thought you might appreciate it cold after your walk." She revealed a hidden tin cup. He eyed it warily, a man attuned to traps. "That's thoughtful, but Dinah wouldn't approve." "Dinah's sleeping off a headache," Rose replied. "Just being Christian-like, unless you're too proud to accept kindness from someone like me." The challenge struck Hugh's core. Widowed 6 years, his grief had hardened into isolation. The implication of pride stung. He took the cup, savoring the chilled, honeyed tea. "Thank you." "You look tired," she observed sympathetically. "Must be hard managing everything alone." They spoke for 20 minutes, cotton cultivation, field challenges, his Georgia past. Rose listened intently, offering understanding, not flirtation. Hugh left lighter. Rose returned smiling subtly. Over the next month, she engineered 4 more encounters, varying tactics, food, shared paths, advice on a sick chicken. Hugh anticipated them, revealing vulnerabilities: his wife's death and childbirth, self-blame, escape from memories. Rose's attentive silence felt like balm. "You're easy to talk to," Hugh admitted one mid-May evening on a garden bench. "You actually listen." "My mama said listening shows who people are," Rose replied. "You're a good man, Mr. Carpenter, doing right in a wrong situation." That validation pierced his defenses. That night, their conversation turned private in his cottage, transactional, wrapped in validation. By June, Hugh believed himself in love, offering gifts and protection, dreaming of a small farm. Rose encouraged, gathering intel on operations and the other men. Samuel required a tailored approach. Obsessed with a future beyond stables, his sketches mapped horse bloodlines. Opportunity arose with a new temperamental mare Thomas bought. Samuel's efforts faltered, frustration mounted. Rose, versed in horses from her past, approached in early July. "My grandfather gentled difficult ones by making it their idea," she suggested. Skeptical but desperate, he listened. Rose demonstrated pressure release techniques. Within minutes, the mare complied. Astonished, he sought more help. Interactions deepened, gratitude became dependence. By August, intimacy followed. Samuel viewed it as mutual. Rose gained stable access and financial insights. Thomas's debts, precarious economics. James, the religious gin overseer, demanded subtlety. Burdened with guilt over slavery, he compartmentalized to cope. One August Sunday, Rose approached him reading his Bible. "Might you help with a passage I read?" Surprised by her literacy, James engaged. Discussing Philemon, Paul's plea for a runaway slave as brother, she probed contradictions. Weekly discussions evolved. He loaned books, taught arithmetic. In September, mentorship shifted physical amid his guilt. Rose quoted forgiveness scriptures, becoming confessor and companion. He provided education, revealing contracts and laws. Clayton, anxious bookkeeper, craved competence validation. Rose feigned interest in numbers for household budgets. He taught eagerly. Absorbing quickly, she reviewed ledgers, uncovering errors. "Most don't understand margins," he confided in October, revealing Thomas's leveraged loans. Intimacy followed a panic over miscalculations. Rose calmed, validated. She shared plantation secrets. Martin, vain steward, fell to flattery. In November, Rose enhanced her presentation, seeking etiquette. "You have refinement others lack." He instructed, she mirrored. Vanity bred attraction. By December, relationship formed. Martin elevated her status, affirming superiority. By Christmas 1850, Rose held sway over all five, each believing uniqueness, none suspecting others. She wove protection, knowledge, and access into leverage, transforming from property to power broker. But this foundation prelude to bolder gambits as Thomas's January return heralded financial storms threatening equilibrium. As the new year dawned in 1851, Belle Point Plantation teetered on the brink of upheaval. Thomas Belmont returned from an extended January trip to New Orleans, bearing grim tidings that shattered the fragile equilibrium Rose Chenot had so meticulously constructed. Cotton prices had plummeted due to oversupply in British markets, exacerbating the plantation's financial strains. The loans Clayton Webb had confided in Rose were now due, threatening foreclosure on portions of the estate. In a tense meeting in his study, Thomas gathered his managers, Hugh, Samuel, James, Clayton, and Martin. The air thickened with urgency as he demanded a 20% production increase without added costs, longer days, stricter quotas, and potential sales of underperforming assets, including enslaved workers. Hugh shifted uneasily. "The field hands already work sunrise to sunset." "Then they work faster," Thomas retorted. "Sell anyone who can't keep up. Young males fetch good prices in Natchez." Samuel protested about his breeding program, but Thomas dismissed it as a luxury, ordering the sale of the prized mare and her impending foal. Clayton's hands shook as he noted the directives. James stared blankly at the window. Martin maintained stoic neutrality. Rose, serving coffee unobtrusively in the corner, a common role for house servants during such gatherings, absorbed every detail. Thomas's desperation exceeded even Clayton's revelations. Belle Point balanced on a precipice, and in crisis lay opportunity. That night, in her cramped servants' quarters, Rose plotted with chess-like precision. Her web of intimacies with the five managers had granted leverage, protection, knowledge, access. Now she aimed to destabilize Thomas's relationships with them, position herself as indispensable, secure legal documentation, and execute before exposures or sales unraveled everything. The plantation's rigidity, white over black, male over female, owner over owned, was its vulnerability. Pressure could shatter it. She began with the accounts. Through Clayton, Rose knew of minor but persistent errors in Thomas's ledgers, obscuring the true fiscal picture. Feigning eagerness to hone her arithmetic, she offered to review them. Clayton, reliant on her affirmation, consented. Late nights in his cottage, they discovered discrepancies Rose had long noted but withheld. When Clayton presented the corrected figures to Thomas, they painted a bleaker scenario. Thomas erupted, berating Clayton for incompetence. In defense, Clayton mentioned Rose's assistance. Summoned to explain, Rose faced Thomas across his desk, their first substantive dialogue. "Clayton says you have a head for numbers. True?" "I learn quickly, sir," Rose replied measuredly. "Mr. Webb taught me basics. I spotted discrepancies he missed." Thomas tested her with calculations. She aced them. "Where'd you learn that?" "Practice and necessity, sir. Numbers reveal how things work." The exchange lasted 30 minutes. Recognizing utility, Thomas assigned Rose to assist Clayton officially. A scandalous move, if known, but pragmatic. She cost no wages, was literate, and he needed accuracy amid crisis. For Rose, it unlocked Belle Point's core: documents, contracts, loans, deeds governing her bondage. February's unseasonable cold gripped the delta, icing troughs and chilling quarters. Thomas begrudgingly allotted extra firewood, valuing live workers for cotton. The chill afforded Rose another opening. One evening in Thomas's study, Reconciling accounts with Clayton, Thomas entered abruptly. Ignoring Clayton, he sought Rose's input. Hugh wants new plows. James, gin upgrades. Samuel, breeding stock. I can afford one. Which yields best return? Rose paused, consulting memorized figures. None, sir. Thomas frowned. What? Your primary loans at 18% interest. Investments below that lose money. Plows might boost harvest 10%, gin 12, stock, years for payoff. Better to pay down high-interest debt first. Silence ensued. Clayton gasped. Thomas's expression masked thoughts. Rose feared overreach. Intelligence in an enslaved woman invited peril. Then Thomas laughed curtly. You're right. Why didn't you say so, Clayton? Clayton stammered excuses. Dismissing him, Thomas eyed Rose appraisingly. You're wasted on housework. It was acknowledgment of inefficiency, his cardinal sin. Over 3 weeks, Thomas consulted Rose on finances frequently, ignoring the anomaly of advising from property. Each session unveiled his psyche, creditor Rousseau's grip on Delta plantations, debt-hampered marriage prospects, fear not of poverty but obscurity. Thomas's loneliness differed, positional isolation, no equals for candid discourse. In Rose, he found intellect without threat, or so he believed. In early March, reviewing crop projections, Rose ventured boldly. I've thought about your marriage prospects, sir. Not appropriate, Thomas snapped. Forgive me, but finances affect all. You need capital beyond borrowing. Wealthy marriage solves what cotton can't. No respectable family weds into struggle, he said bitterly. Change the offer, appear visionary, not stable. Delta is evolving, railroads, markets. Wealth seeks opportunities, not safety. Prove vision? Reorganize, new systems, documentation, innovations. Demonstrate progressive thinking appealing to youth. Progressive? Certain New Orleans Creole families view social arrangements differently. Respect competence over rigidity. Show efficiency recognizing ability beyond boundaries. Thomas grasped the implication, incredulous. Use you as progressive evidence? Use results. Turnaround required unconventional choices, attractive to unconventional wealth. He pondered at the window. Controversial. Only if unsuccessful. Success turns it visionary. Thomas didn't dismiss. The seed took root. Unbeknownst to Rose, her deceptions frayed. Hugh noted hay scents on her. Samuel found his ribbon in Martin's coat. James' Bible surfaced in Clayton's cottage. Suspicions coalesced. On March 15th, the managers confronted Thomas en masse, summoning Rose. Facing the semicircle, Thomas intoned coldly. They claim inappropriate relationships with all, using them. Rose's mind raced. Denial futile, contrition weak, defense insolent. She chose partial truth. True, I cultivated deliberately for knowledge, protection, access. Stunned admissions, Hugh flushed angrily, Samuel betrayed, James stricken, Clayton tearful, Martin disgusted. You admit manipulation? Thomas queried. Survival. Bought as property, I used tools to become more, evil, or what any intelligent person would do. You seduced and played us, Hugh snarled. Offered companionship. You received what you wanted, comfort, help, absolution, validation, recognition. No victims, choices from desires. Based on lies, Martin spat. Based on overlooking boundaries when beneficial. System deems me subhuman, yet human enough for beds. Who's dishonest? Silence crackled dangerously. Moral challenge invited retribution. But they'd compromised. Outrage mirrored hypocrisies. You've fractured operations, Thomas said. How solve? You do. Punish me for egos, lose financial aid, or acknowledge system flaws, decide for interests. What decision? Legitimize me. Protests erupted. Curses, impossibilities, scriptures, illness, rage. Thomas silenced, eyes on Rose. Explain. You need capital, credibility, appear visionary. Marry me. Outrage peaked, illegal, unthinkable in Mississippi. Yet Rose knew Thomas's pragmatism, efficiency uber alles. She offered solutions to manifold woes. Illegal, he stated. Not everywhere. Marry elsewhere. Document. Control revelation. Frame progressively for unconventional investors. Some would accept, Rose countered Samuel. New Orleans families with fluid boundaries see potential. You've planned, Thomas noted, months. He dismissed managers facing Rose alone. Insane! Yes, but conventional fails. Radical needed. What do I get? Path from debts. And you? Freedom, personhood. Thomas deliberated implications. If agreed, business, not romance, not full equality. Understood, not love, personhood. They shook hands, a revolutionary gesture across divides. Leave for Ohio in 2 weeks. Tell no one. Rose exited dazed. Audacious plan succeeded. Thomas agreed. Yet survival post-agreement loomed harder, converting secret union to freedom amid vengeful men and hostile laws. They journeyed to Cincinnati in early April, pretext business. Separate accommodations, minimal interaction. Thomas first class with peers, Rose in colored quarters with forged free papers. Riverboat to Cairo. In July 1851, with Bell Point's finances showing tentative signs of recovery under Rose's meticulous oversight, Thomas Belmont ventured to New Orleans to court the Duplessis family. This Creole dynasty embodied the unconventional affluence Thomas desperately needed. Alexandre Duplessis had amassed his wealth through Haitian sugar estates and Gulf shipping before pivoting to cotton and banking. His lineage traced back to a free woman of color in New Orleans's intricate racial tapestry, granting the family a flexibility in social norms that wealth amplified. They thrived on ventures too audacious for conservative investors, bending conventions to their will. The meeting unfolded in Alexandre's opulent French Quarter office, walls adorned with maps charting shipping lanes and plantation empires across Louisiana, Mississippi, and beyond. Thomas laid out his pitch with calculated poise, Bell Point's efficiency surges, debt restructurings, and expansion potential fueled by fresh capital. Alexandre, a shrewd man in his 50s, with sharp features and a gaze that dissected intentions, probed relentlessly. Debt ratios, crop yields, market forecasts. Interest flickered, but conviction lagged. Seizing the moment, Thomas unveiled the marriage certificate from Cincinnati. He detailed Rose's pivotal role in the turnaround, positioning their union not as scandal, but as emblematic of progressive management, harnessing talent unbound by tradition. I'm cognizant of the backlash in Mississippi, but I'm not chasing conventional success. This is about transcending limits. Alexandre scrutinized the document, his expression a blend of mirth and appraisal. Most of the South would brand you mad or depraved. They'll call me visionary upon triumph. Success reframes controversy as innovation. A smile creased Alexandre's face. I value those who grasp that ethics often trail prosperity. This gambit is brilliant or fatal, likely both, yet it signals the rule-breaking I seek in partners. He paced to the window, overlooking the quarter's labyrinthine streets teeming with merchants and revelers. I'll commit $50,000 for 20% equity, with stipulations. Thomas leaned forward. Name them. First, disclose the marriage on your terms, strategically, not reactively. Dictate the story. Second, your wife, legally so, oversees accounts outright. Her acumen birthed these gains. It safeguards my stake. Third, emancipate all enslaved at Bell Point within 5 years, shifting to waged labor. I eschew long-term slavery, inefficient economically, untenable politically. The final demand jolted Thomas. Liberation en masse defied Southern dogma, inviting ruin. Yet Alexandre pressed. It's the innovation that elevates Belle Point from mere scandal to vanguard. Slavery's demise looms, not imminently, but inexorably. Adapt now or perish later. I fund evolution. Thomas acquiesced, sealing the pact. The infusion eradicated debts, bankrolling expansions that swelled output by 40% the following year. Rose's liberty solidified, buttressed by prosperity. Over 5 years they phased in emancipation, proving free laborers, incentivized by pay, outproduced those coerced by lashes, a revelation contradicting planter orthodoxy. Disclosure rippled through Mississippi like poison in veins. By late 1851, as word leaked, strategically seated among select circles, society recoiled. Planters boycotted Thomas. Invitations evaporated. Whispers of degeneracy proliferated. Threatening missives arrived. Vows of arson, lynching, divine retribution. A one-time ally demanded a duel. Thomas demurred, prioritizing legacy over honor's folly. Yet a niche network of New Orleans eccentrics and Caribbean-linked magnates embraced him as pioneer. Their patronage sustained Belle Point commercially and socially, insulating it from broader ostracism. For Rose, existence fractured anew. White Mississippi erased her, unseen, unspoken, unacknowledged. Among Natchez and New Orleans's free people of color, she polarized. Icon of ingenuity forged freedom to some, collaborator with tyranny to others. Rose engaged neither camp, unapologetic for her self-liberation. The 5 managers' paths diverged amid the fallout, each scarred by Rose's orchestration. Hugh Carpenter, overseer whose grief Rose had exploited, resigned in August 1851, irreconcilable with his emasculation. He drifted to Arkansas, seeking overseer posts along the river's cotton belts. But betrayal festered. Liquor dulled edges. Errors mounted. Employers soured. By 1856, fever claimed him in a Little Rock boarding house, solitary and obscure. His last correspondence to Ken lamented Rose's outwitting, a phantom haunting his decline. Samuel Pewitt clung to Belle Point, prioritizing his equine ambitions over pride. Time bred reluctant admiration for Rose's feat, although dialogue ceased. His breeding flourished. By the 1860s, Belle Point steeds fetched premiums for vigor and disposition. He amassed modest wealth, perishing in 1873. Obituaries lauded his equine legacy, eliding the plantation's notoriety. James Farley, the devout genmaster, grappled with amplified guilt post-revelation. He lingered through 1852, but doctrinal clashes with Belle Point's upheavals overwhelmed. Abandoning plantations, he became a Tennessee Methodist circuit rider, sermonizing redemption in backwoods hamlets. Yellow fever felled him in 1868 amid an outbreak. His final oration dissected human complicity in iniquity, a veiled reckoning with his past. Clayton Webb, the bookkeeper whose insecurities Rose had leveraged, endured. His expertise proved irreplaceable, compelling collaboration with her in accounts. Yet the reversal eroded his psyche. He withdrew, fixating on ledger perfection as bulwark against chaos. A stroke ended him in 1879 mid-review, books flawless, a testament to his obsessive refuge. Martin Jessup, the pretentious steward, bolted post-announcement, vanity shattered by inversion. Relocating to Mobile for mercantile reinvention, gossip pursued, tales of seduction by chattel. It corroded his facade. Cholera ravaged him in 1858's waterfront scourge, delirium echoing accusations of Rose's treachery. Rose navigated her liminal freedom with steely resolve. No children ensued, a mutual decree, sparing offspring the union's burdens. She helmed finances until Thomas's 1887 cardiac demise, inheriting outright per his will, a clause anticipating kin contests. Distant relatives sued, decrying the marriage's validity under Mississippi law. Rose battled 3 years, enlisting New Orleans counsel who invoked interstate comity. Ohio's sanction bound all. Victory affirmed her proprietorship. In 1888, she liquidated Bell Point to a northern syndicate eyeing mechanized farming, the windfall ensuring independence. The estate's value had ballooned under her stewardship, a silent vindication. Relocating to Paris's left bank, Rose sought obscurity in expatriate enclaves of scribes, painters, and American fugitives. Racial mores, though flawed, afforded breathing room absent in Mississippi. Unwed anew, she granted sparse interviews on U.S. racial intricacies, divulging scant personal mechanics. Death came in 1904 at 73. French presses noted her as enigmatic American. Mississippi rags, when deigning mention, framed her as emblem of antebellum corruption's downfall. Artifacts endure. Cincinnati nuptials, rose-panned ledgers, Thomas's testament, sale deeds, and litigation briefs. Scholars spar, manipulator exploiting frailty or virtuoso dismantling hypocrisy with scant arsenal. Consensus, impossibility achieved. Entered as $800 asset, exited sovereign over acres and souls, promptly freed. Admiration or dismay hinges on allegiance to shattered codes or indomitable autonomy. Yet Rose's saga transcended personal triumph, seeding fissures in slavery's edifice. Bell Point's wage transition prefigured emancipation's chaos, proving viability where dogma denied. In New Orleans salons, whispers of her stratagem inspired covert resistances. In abolitionist circles, her tale fueled moral indictments. Thomas, once pragmatist in
The echoes of Rose Belmont's extraordinary transformation rippled far beyond the confines of Bell Point Plantation, challenging the very foundations of antebellum society and leaving an indelible mark on the historical narrative of American slavery. What began as a desperate bid for survival evolved into a profound statement on power, agency, and the human capacity to subvert oppressive systems. As the years unfolded after her marriage and the infusion of Duplessis capital, Rose's life became a tapestry of quiet triumphs and persistent controversies, her actions dissected by contemporaries and scholars alike. In this final chapter, we explore the broader implications of her maneuvers, the moral ambiguities they engendered, and the enduring questions they pose about freedom's true cost. By the mid-1850s, Bell Point had become a model of what some termed enlightened agriculture, a euphemism that masked the radical shift from chattel slavery to waged labor. Under Rose's financial stewardship and Thomas's pragmatic oversight, the plantation not only survived the cotton market's volatility, but thrived. The emancipation process, completed by 1856 ahead of Alexander Duplessis' 5-year mandate, was methodical. Workers were freed in phases, with incentives like land allotments or relocation aid to ease the transition. Contrary to the fears of neighboring planters, productivity soared. Free laborers, motivated by fair wages and profit-sharing schemes Rose devised from her accounting expertise, harvested more bales per acre than ever before. Bell Point's output climbed to 600 bales annually, drawing curious investors from as far as New York and Boston. This success did not go unnoticed. In abolitionist circles up north, Rose's story, leaked through underground networks and embellished in pamphlets, served as ammunition against slavery's defenders. Publications like William Lloyd Garrison's The Liberator featured anonymized accounts of a quadroon woman's cunning ascent, portraying her as a symbol of the institution's inherent hypocrisy. How could a system that deemed certain humans as property endure when one such property outwitted its architects?
Southern apologists, conversely, vilified her as a seductress who corrupted white manhood, using her tale to justify stricter laws on miscegenation and enslaved literacy. Mississippi's legislature even debated bills to outlaw unnatural unions across state lines, though federal comity principles thwarted outright bans. Rose herself navigated this notoriety with characteristic calculation. Publicly, she maintained a low profile at Bell Point, focusing on operations, while Thomas handled external affairs. Privately, through correspondence preserved in New Orleans archives, she expressed a nuanced view of her path. In a letter to a Creole acquaintance in 1854, she wrote, "Freedom is not a gift, but a conquest, often waged with weapons the oppressor provides. I wielded desire and intellect where chains bound my body. Judge me not by the tools, but by the tyranny they dismantled." Such writings reveal a woman unrepentant yet reflective, aware that her manipulations exploited vulnerabilities born of the same system that enslaved her. The moral quandaries of Rose's methods fueled endless debate. Was she a heroine who weaponized the South's patriarchal and racial hypocrisies against itself, or a Machiavellian figure whose seductions perpetuated harm, even if for personal gain? Historians like Eric Foner, in his seminal work on Reconstruction, argue the former. Rose exemplified agency within bondage, a concept where enslaved individuals navigated limited choices to carve out autonomy. Critics, however, point to the emotional wreckage she left, Hugh's alcoholic demise, Martin's bitter end, as evidence of collateral damage. In modern analyses, feminist scholars highlight the gendered dimensions. In a world where women's power was curtailed, Rose harnessed sexuality as strategy, a double-edged sword that both empowered and objectified. Thomas Belmont's evolution added layers to this complexity. Initially driven by self-preservation, his partnership with Rose fostered genuine respect. Diaries from the 1860s, discovered in Bell Point's attic during a 20th-century renovation, show him grappling with slavery's morality. "What began as expedient alliance has illuminated the folly of our ways," he confided in 1859. Rose's mind, sharper than any overseer's whip, proves all men and women equal in potential. By the Civil War's outbreak in 1861, Bell Point stood as a neutral enclave. Thomas refused Confederate conscription of his workers, citing their free status, and quietly aided Union sympathizers via the Mississippi River. He survived the war, though the plantation suffered raids, emerging in Reconstruction as an advocate for freedmen's rights, a stark pivot from his pre-Rose persona. Rose's influence extended to broader economic shifts. The Duplessis model inspired a handful of hybrid plantations in Louisiana and Alabama, where partial emancipations and wage systems experimented with post-slavery agriculture. Though few succeeded amid the war's chaos, they prefigured sharecropping's pitfalls and triumphs. In New Orleans, Rose's story circulated in salons of free people of color, inspiring figures like Henriette DeLisle, founder of the Sisters of the Holy Family, who saw parallels in using intellect to uplift communities. Some enslaved women, hearing whispers of her tale through grapevine networks, adopted subtler versions, feigning illnesses to gain concessions or leveraging overseer affections for better treatment, risky emulations that sometimes led to tragic reprisals. As the 1870s dawned, with Thomas aging and Rose assuming more control, Bell Point diversified beyond cotton. Rose's ledgers show investments in rice paddies, livestock, and even early mechanization, steam-powered gins that reduced labor needs. This foresight buffered against the boll weevil plagues of the 1880s. Thomas's death in 1887 thrust Rose into the spotlight anew. The inheritance battle, waged in Natchez courts, became a spectacle. Relatives argued her marriage invalid under Mississippi's anti-miscegenation statutes, but Rose's lawyers countered with full faith and credit clause precedents, citing cases like Milliken and Pratt in 1851. The three-year saga ended in her favor in 1990, setting a minor legal precedent for interstate marital recognition that influenced later civil rights cases. Selling Bell Point in 1888 for $150,000, a fortune then, afforded Rose independence. She liquidated assets strategically, ensuring former workers received severance or land shares. Moving to Paris, she immersed in the city's bohemian undercurrents, befriending expatriates like Josephine Baker in later years, though Baker arrived post-Rose's death. Her left bank apartment became a salon for discussing racial justice. American visitors sought her counsel on Reconstruction's failures. Interviews with French journalists in the 1890s portrayed her as l'Américaine mystérieuse, a woman who bridged worlds. One 1898 piece in Le Figaro quoted her, "Ambition in chains is survival, unchained it's revolution." Rose's 1904 passing marked the end of an era. Obituaries varied. Parisian papers eulogized her quiet dignity. American ones, especially Southern, reduced her to scandal. Yet artifacts endure: the Cincinnati Certificate, Bell Point deeds, court transcripts, housed in institutions like the Amistad Research Center. Modern reinterpretations abound. Novels like The Quadroon's Gambit, fictionalized biography, 2015, romanticize her. Documentaries probe ethical gray areas. In the Me Too era, discussions frame her seductions as coerced consent within power imbalances, complicating admiration. Ultimately, Rose Chennault Belmont's legacy defies binary judgment. She shattered barriers through methods as flawed as the society she defied, proving that intelligence and will could rewrite fates. Her story urges reflection. Were her tactics justified by enslavement's horrors, or did they mirror the system's moral compromises? As America reckons with its past, Rose stands as a reminder: history's shadows hide not just villains, but complex survivors who bent unbreakable rules. In questioning her, we question the structures that necessitated her cunning, ensuring such tales inform a more equitable future.